Okay, so this recording's all about fixed issues for the 24.2 coming out. Make this a little bit bigger for us. If you're coming to this recording first, totally cool, but make sure that you know that there is a preamble and a part one of desktop settings walkthrough review, if I could talk, that covers the 24.2. This is all about fixed issues, and these are the release notes as of July 1st. So as they are pre-release notes, they are subject to change. So we will see how that goes. All right, let's get into what they actually are rather than just read. Let's talk about them. So the first thing that's been fixed is amortization schedule tool. So an application error triggered. So it looks like Encompass crashed. Working with interest-only loans, simple interest, and application error triggered. All right, so the issue's been addressed. The application error is no longer triggered. The final payment. So if you had this error before, it's fixed in 24.2. And a lot of these things too, as you're listening to this, if you had an open case, it might have been listed under product defect. You might actually get notifications from ICE support that this is now resolved, and that's because of 24.2. Update to include discount points paid by broker or other discount point calculations. So this gets into some ATR QM screen, giving you past results, but the compliance review failed. This is a reminder. This is a reminder that compliance review, aka Maven, is set up on a distinct separate engine as a checks and balance against Encompass native. So, so this is now getting fixed. This field is also used by Maven to pass. So this talks about that. We're on page 68 of the current PDF. Migration information about this fix to. This happens to in fixed issues. We went over this in feature updates. So it just reminds you that to apply a new system calculation, click the gold lock icon to go ahead and turn it blue, which means it's going to calculate on its own. All right, we have an update to address an issue with mismatched calculating cash to close values on the CD3 and printed output forms. All right, so we just see some distinctions. So before we had things that didn't match, where it says total other costs, and then it said total other costs and total other costs. So that's been fixed. It just says see total other costs. Cool. Next fix is the purpose of refinance option is now provided correctly on 2010 version of closing Reg Z input form. So there must have been a snag with 2010 version. That's been addressed. Thank you, ICE. Update to address an issue with intent to proceed earliest fee collection values clearing when a loan template's applied. That's not cool. So when a loan template set was applied to loans, I never saw this, but apparently the values to intent to proceed in earliest fee collection and compliance were cleared out. The issue's been resolved and the values are no longer being cleared out when the loan template set is applied with the append template data option selected. Oh, that was a call out. It says even with it, so I don't know. If you had that happen before, hopefully that's going to stop happening in 24.2. Next one is update to retain estimated closing costs field data. So that's down here. So when discount points field was locked by the user, so they manually locked it, which again is a no-no. The estimated closing cost field was cleared if it was unlocked. Updates have been made to ensure that when the discount points field is locked, the estimated closing cost field is no longer cleared in this scenario. Yeah, it just looks like there was some conversation, some code conversation between these two input forms that looks like it was resolved. There's a next issue here that was fixed. Update to address issues with VA non-URL failing QMs when they should not. So if you had a cash out refinance or a purchase transaction, first of all, there's no such thing as a normal VA refi. If it's not a purchase, if it's a VA loan and it's not a purchase and it's not a cash out, then it's an URL. I think that's what they were trying to say. In any event, now you had some issues that are no longer being affected by that. And so you'd see this on the ATR QM tool. So if you had any problems with purchase or cash out refi in Encompass for VA, we're floating between pages, bottom of page 71, top of page 72, that you'll see this error fixed. The next one is update for broker correspondent name and company field. Oh, this is interesting. So basically, the calculation logic for the broker correspondent name and the company name field has been updated. The field will now be populated as follows based upon the selection made for the mortgage originator field 1149. So it just goes into showing you the output. So if you had any problems with that, this is page 73. You'll find it there. The next problem fixed is construction loan indicator checkbox now selected as expected when a loan template's applied. That's helpful because in features we saw that the new updates for construction loans and loan program is there, so that'll be good that they fixed that. Next problem fix is update for debt to income ratio for construction and permanent loans. Again, more love shown there, so thank you very much. Again, more migration notes here. We're on page 74. Make sure you understand these migration notes. I'm telling you right now, I've seen more admins and more systems go sideways because somebody misunderstood like what would happen into their Encompass based upon a new update or something new fixed. So you have to pay attention to these migration notes if that applies to you, okay? Thank you. Next one that's fixed is TPO information tool now clears branch information. Oh, yay, this is actually really good. I work with a lot of TPO companies, and what's going on here is if you went into the external company setup and company details, when you had the branch information section was not being cleared out after a branch was changed to a company extension. So now you do it, the TPO information tool is now cleared. Nicely done, ICE. Nicely done. Late fee, next issue fixed is late fee grace period now calculating correctly on TPO loans. So if you had a correct late fee grace period number of days, that's field 3297. Oh man, this was a problem for TPO loans where the setting was ignored and a value of 0 was populated. No, not cool. No bueno on that one. Remember, migration. This fix applies to only new loans originated. This is really important because if you've got kind of a churn on your TPO pipeline that's, I don't know, 30 days or longer, it's not going to help. So if you've got this problem, you might want to consider canceling out any loan not coming in. Like this is, again, pretend that this hits on August, right? So maybe if the loan isn't in by September, you cancel it out and make the broker partner or business partner recreate the loan so this doesn't happen to you. Next problem fixed is correct proposed monthly mortgage payment for second investment properties now used for North Carolina. So you're doing loans in North Carolina, you notice you had a problem with your compliance reports with regards to the mortgage payment for second or investment properties. That's been fixed. Next issue, redisclosure GFE alert now triggered as expected when origination credit is reduced. So when a reduction was made to the credit due to additional lender credits being disclosed, the redisclosed GFE alert was not triggered like it should have been. This has been fixed according to this. The alert will provide the credit reduction details. So you want to check out those alerts. I want to do a quick call out here. Remember, alerts don't show up in your pipeline view if you've got more than one loan folder selected. So if you've got teams of people that are looking for this alert and they're expecting to see it in the alerts column, but hey, these loans never have alerts, it's because they've got more than one loan folder selected. Just remember, please. All right, next one fixed. Update how investor ownership of the loan percentage. Oh, this is a ULDD thing. Yeah. So basically the Fannie Mae tab indicated a data template was not being applied to carry over the percentage of the loan. So read this if you're delivering to Fannie. You've been getting hit kind of the investor ownership percentage of the loan. That's been addressed. Here's one. Self-employed checkbox indicators removed from the ULDD PDD input form. So the self-employed checkboxes, blah, 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 these are removed to address an issue with the checkboxes not always reflecting the value that was exported to GSEs. Please note that since the new 2020 URLA forms and features were introduced in 2019 to Encompass, all employment verification information, including self-employment data, is captured on the VOE input form. And it's what it's showing you here on screen. We're on page 76 now. So this is the data from the VOE, and it's exporting all loans. It's used when exporting all loans to Fannie or Freddie in the required ULDD format. Therefore, it's duplicative and problematic because these have to deal with the specific VOE entry. So yes, it's good that ICE removed these to create less problems potentially, because we don't know which employer this is actually citing. Yeah, good move. Next one fixed. City and county names with hyphens now displayed in uppercase. So oh, like this guy right here on screen, Miami-Dade, they'd lowercase the D in Dade, so now it's going to be an uppercase D. I guess that was a problem. So it's now shown case proper. Update for mortgage broker license state and loan officer state values. So I've seen this too when working with wholesale loans. So in other words, you're the wholesale lender. The icon for the mortgage broker field and then selecting a company branch, the state license are now being populated on values provided in the Encompass settings properly. So before there was a problem with this, I've seen this. And yeah, that's great that that's been fixed. Continue on with general fixes. Conversation log entry is now printed correctly. Apparently the update's been modified to remove excessive white space. So there you go. All right, here's some fixed issues in the Encompass settings. Loan folders, drop-down list now available to select for pipeline views and persona setting. The issue is fixed. I didn't even realize this was not showing it properly. It shows you how often I go into fix people's pipeline views with regards to folders. So that's been fixed. Change circumstance, receive date now, and auto-populated. Oh, so if you listen to the other recording, the first recording, I talk about feature enhancements. It talks about information coming in for these. There's 3 of them actually. And so what I talk about is this is the input form. This is either this is CD page 1 obviously, but it's a similar format for LE page 1. Just please make sure you go into the change circumstance setup in Encompass desktop settings to make sure that you choose a reason that your team uses, as well as line it up to a CFPB reason that's over here on the left. So that way when your team member clicks a change circumstance reason, not only do the comments come in properly, but then also the reason box is checked, so they can't uncheck it if they have that as a reason for the change circumstance. All right, on to keep on going. We're on top of page 79, or excuse me, we're on the bottom of page 79 now. Intent to proceed checkbox is now enabled, disabled accordingly based on user's persona access. So so apparently it wasn't working correctly where you could allow. You could have somebody who had access to do the intent to proceed, but this has been fixed now to where the persona access to fields business rules now will work properly. So disclosure tracking, and you can get in intent to proceed, right? So that's in here. So if they don't have the ability to update that, it's now working properly. Ongoing for fixed issues, time zone indicated in disclosure tracking setting now applied consistently. So by default, remember all this stuff in disclosure tracking is supposed to be PST, but sometimes the local user time zone was being created. And so of course that creates a lot of potential issues. So that's been now noted as, as standard, right? So it's showing you here what's going on. So we're on page 81 now. Next issue fixed is field trigger business rules designed to indicate fields prior value now operating correctly for collection fields. So using advanced code with the field trigger business rule, administrators can enable a rule that displays a pop-up message when a field value is modified that displayed what the field's new value is and what the field. Wow, that's pretty cool. I've never done that. However, when this type of rule was triggered for indexed collection fields, I call them iterative fields, so I guess the proper way to call them is indexed fields. Specifically like fields on verification forms where the IDs change based upon the form data. So in other words, I call them iterative fields. I call them iterative fields. So index field basically means first job, second job, third job. First liability, second liability, third liability. So instead of it working properly, it was returning an empty for previous value, mostly because the value was changed, so therefore it removed it. An issue has been fixed, so now the field trigger rules now returns the correct prior value in the alert pop-up window when the rule is applied. Hey, if you're listening to this and you're doing that, I'd love to understand the use case. Please either post it to mortgage.community, which would be perfect, or if you don't want to do that, you want to email me, use larry@atihelps.com. So here's an example of that. I don't know why that's important, but that's what we've shown. Next problem fixed on page 82 here is import and export options removed from loan action completion. So this is a TPO based thing. So in previous versions of Encompass, when managing loan action completion, which again is TPO, and automated enhanced conditions business rule, it's really specific, administrators could right-click a rule and then select import or export. However, importing and exporting these types of business rules was not supported, and it was not supposed to be there. So this is a nice remove. So basically, it let you do something you weren't supposed to do. So you can't do it anymore as of 24.2. Next thing fixed is COBAR employer request date, the VOE, field now available for business rules. That's pretty cool. So it's used to record the date of the verification of employment record. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff in here. The issue is now fixed. I guess this was specific to field CE0098 and its variations, and they can be used for persona access to field's business rules. It is now included in their Encompass reporting database, so it also can be included in Encompass reports and dashboards and pipeline views and audit trail. Let's not forget that. All right, page 83. On to fixed issues. Required fields for milestone completion rules no longer display blue for super admins. Well, that kind of sucks. When administrators configure and enable milestone completion, they can specify required fields. These fields are designed to display. However, an issue was introduced in 24.1 that resulted in these fields displaying with a blue background. This issue has been resolved in the I don't know, man. I mean, so anybody out there, I don't know. I'll tell you what, I like that they were blue. I don't know who complained that they were blue, and boo on you, because sometimes you have to be a super and you have to be other things inside the Encompass. And for all the listen to me. I'm from Jersey. For all you out there who are like, oh, you should have a separate login for your admin stuff and you should have a separate login for your loan production stuff. Yeah, in a perfect world, 100%, no doubt. But that doesn't always meet up with reality. So I don't know. I think this should be called back, but ICE, if you're listening, I don't know. You have to give me more information as to why that was important besides the fact that somebody was annoyed the fields were blue. They're blue because they're supposed to be, because they're there for milestone completion. And it's really helpful too if you're like troubleshooting a file and you want to see what fields are missing. And now you could say, oh, but you can go to the milestone worksheet. Yeah, but not always, because different fields apply to different milestone worksheets. So there. All right, I'm sassy because I'm sick, if you haven't heard it in my voice already. I'm getting better though. So update to ensure the settings configured for custom documents to be included in pre-closing package enforced correctly. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this for a second. So anytime you hear enforced correctly, or you hear another catchphrase which is now enforced, or anything else that says, operating normally, what that means is that if it wasn't operating, it wasn't correct before, and now ICE has fixed it, which is great. But when it comes to things like this, you now have to make sure you're not going to get this set of reported problems, quote unquote, that all of a sudden popped up with 24.2 in this case. There wasn't a problem with 24.2. It was actually a problem before 24.2. You just didn't know it. And so, honored. The other one is called honored. Encompass now honors blah, blah, blah for a business rule. That means that ICE figured out that something wasn't working properly, and now it's going to work properly, hopefully. And so as an admin, if you get a whole bunch of stuff on a rule that you've had forever, it's because Encompass now operates the way you thought it was, even though it wasn't operating that way before. So you want to be careful and be mindful, be aware of these things. So custom documents for pre-closing packages that were configured to only be included in document packages for unlocked loans were being generated for locked loans, even if it was here, right? So the issue's been fixed, and these custom documents are only being included for locked loans. This is really, really specific to locked and unlocked status. And that's tricky too. I mean, honestly, like not locked could mean expired, and that's probably what they ran up against. So that one's a little tricky. Give them a pass on that one. Thanks for fixing it. We're on top of page 84. Issue with duplicate fields for different borrower pairs and reporting database resolved. Oh boy. So if you ever go into a reporting database, you see this borrower pair thing here. So you could have the same field and you can have different borrower pairs, but apparently if you try to do that with 1450, it gave you problems. So that's been resolved. A known issue with auto lock not working with ICE PPE provider. I'm just laughing because we haven't even got an ICE PPE yet. I'm assuming they mean EPPS, but ICE PPE just is coming out with 24.2 with a rebrand. So there's a known issue with auto lock settings do not work with an ICE PPE provider. The issue affects retail channel locks, and the lock request goes into a requested state instead of auto confirmed. This will be addressed in future release. Okay. The workaround is to select Encompass product and pricing as the provider. So wait. Let me finish my sentence. The workaround is select Encompass product and pricing service as the provider on the product and pricing setting, and then select the ICE PPE provider on the lock request form. Oh boy. So this goes back to the feature enhancements where you've got to make sure your persona is allowed to, you modify personas to allow them to select different PPE providers, and they want you to use Encompass product and pricing service on the secondary registration, or on the product and price setting, which is in the secondary registration, whatever. In the desktop settings, in the product and pricing setting, select Encompass product and pricing service. But in the file, you have to train your team to modify that to use the EPPS. I'm sorry, I just screwed that up. To use the ICE PPE. Okay, I'm going to move on. Last but not least, Encompass APIs. So there's a fix here to update to address an issue when loan creates API data templates. So when you loan create API, had a thing with the taxes, applying loan template set containing a data template that contains zeros, resulted in final value fields being replaced with 0. This issue, which was introduced in 24.1, has been fixed. The original values in field 231 and 1405. So basically, if you're creating a file, like you have an outside whatever piece of software, and you're pulling in that loan and you're applying a loan template, the loan template had blanks, of course, for monthly taxes and insurance, or property taxes and closing costs, because that's not in the template, and it would basically take whatever you had in the loan create API path and wipe them out. So that's been fixed. If you had that problem before, it's done. 24.2 will take care of it. And that's the end of that piece. So that brings us to the rock solid end of all of the pre-release review. Or is this the release review? I don't know. If we get any more updates, we'll basically append another recording. We'll probably do that shortly before this 24.2 goes into production. It's usually a safe bet. Today is July 1st. Obviously, you see this was last updated just a few days ago. And, it's only 85 pages. As I've always said, go to the end of the release notes. And if you don't see any changelog, that means that you haven't seen the last of it yet. There'll always be changelogs. And my name is Larry Bailey. And I thank you very much for watching this video. Listen to replay, and we'll catch you on the next one. Stay tuned. Remember, there's 2 others, right? We've got TPO, and then we've also got Encompass Web release notes to go through. See you there.